to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. You know, everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, and at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
Part of the beauty of Multiverse is the aspect of wonder, and how within that there is such diversity that leads to commonality, more than anyone might expect. And in this episode, we welcome fantasy author Author Santarelli and fantasy sci-fi author Kris Bird to lead us into their world's wonder. Then we venture to the land of horror, where 8th Publishing has a nice little scare in a great anthology for you. And finally, Multiverse gives us all a place where we can meet in the middle, as we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spotlight on the Multiverse Convention show. I am Joe Compton. I am excited to be here. I have a wonderful slew of guests here today. Right there to my left, and his right, it's the one and only Author Santarelli. Hello, my friend.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks for having me again.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I always love to start this conversation off by letting people, letting yourself tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do. So please.
Okay. So I am Author Kris Santarelli, and I am primarily a fantasy author. I also do scripting for comics. I am neurodivergent and disabled and queer, and do a lot of advocacy in the publishing industry for those things. I also work as a sensitivity editor for those subjects. So that's about the crux of it.
Vanessa says, Toby. Yeah, it's awesome. I know you've been to several of the Multiverse events and to the conference itself. Are you excited for the new space? Does that excite you a little bit to have the new space?
I'm so excited about the new space. You have no idea. Like, I like the hotel that we were in, but it was starting to finally feel just a little bit too crowded in with the author's alley in particular. Like we couldn't fit enough people. And so I'm really excited, because that's going to get an expansion at the new place. It's like nicer layout from what I hear.
The first year that the both of us went, you were in the vendor hall, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? You were...
I knew people in the vendors hall, but I didn't even have. I had my book on my on my publisher's table, and that was
right.
Yeah, the fall staff table.
Yeah, and then you were like right by the door last year. So
right by the door, literally on the corner. It was so nice. I did really well being right there.
Jesse says hello. Yeah, I mean, give us a sense, as somebody who goes to a lot of conventions, what Multiverse means to you. Why is it so different? Why is it so unique for you? And because you're one of the people like myself that treks across the country to get there. So
yep. I'm from Colorado, and I go all the way to Atlanta for Multiverse every year. And I will keep going back so long as they'll have me. Like, I like it that much. I have been a convention vendor for 7 years before I started my author career in 21. So a good decade of convention experience, plus going like as a fan before that. And Multiverse was the first conference I went to where I wasn't the only obviously queer person there. Like in the sense of being on panels and presentations and stuff like that. There were so many of us that were gender diverse and that were sexuality diverse that we could have entire panels with just us. And it was the first time that has ever happened to me. And I was so excited about it. And we all made really fast friends.
And it also offers you an opportunity to be in like the fantasy track and things like that, where you're not being pigeonholed to do all the diverse things and all of the neurodivergent things. You do those anyway, and like I told you before, the panel that I actually had to sit down, I was helping Vanessa out at the writer's track, and I was sitting down there because we were doing the tea social, I believe, at the same time. And so she needs somebody to sit in the room. So I sat in the room and watched the neurodivergent panel, and it was the greatest experience of an hour that I've ever had on a panel. It was an amazing, amazing panel. But you've long said that part of the thing is you don't want to just be the person that does all the neurodivergent panels. You want to do the fantasy panels and the magic panels.
Fantasy panels. I want to do comic panels. Like I want to go into these things and talk about more than just who I am. But in particular, like that was what stood out to me the first time I went, was that I wasn't the only person there. And I also, like I said, I've made fast friends. I don't think I have left Multiverse without making like half a dozen new friends.
That's the great thing about it. That is really cool about that. Vanessa says we don't have token queers, we have token straights. And kidding, we don't have token anyone. But
yeah, but I love the fantasy track. Last year we had one of the most amazing panels where we got really into fairy tales and like the origins of them and the differences between the sanitized versions we get now and the originals. And it was like the most fascinating, super nerdy fairy tale panel ever. It was so good. There was a professor. I was there and I'm obsessed with fairy tales. There was another couple of writers who did it, and that was a fun one.
Was it like retelling fantasy tales, or was it just retelling fairy tales, or was it just talking about actual fairy tales that existed?
Yeah, it's talking about fairy tales and the role that they play in our society, and why retellings of them are so popularized, and how they've changed from the original to now, how the story had to change to be relevant to now, kind of thing, as well as just which ones are so different that people don't even like. We talked about The Princess and the Frog, which there's a Disney movie for it, and I didn't realize that for a lot of people, that's the first Princess and the Frog they've ever heard. And the original is very dark and very twisted. Like, it is not great. And I'm like, so nobody's heard of that one? So I did tell The Princess and the Frog in like 5 or 6 sentences.
Very similar to like The Little Mermaid. People don't realize how dark that book really is.
Yeah. All of them. Cinderella has the stepmother in iron shoes or something like that.
Yeah.
It was Cinderella or Snow White, one of those. The stepsisters get their eyes pecked out. That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that panel was fantastic.
Vanessa says fairy tales are originally warnings, not entertainment. Yeah, did you fill out the survey yet for this year?
Yes.
Was there
one the day I got it? Are you kidding?
It literally happened while my show was going on, and literally I got off of here and went right to it and did it. But was there any ones that stood out for you this year that you're hoping for? I mean, we do have the boss in the chat. She can probably make some concessions.
I did see a lot of them, but I actually cannot remember anything. I have the memory span of a goldfish. Vanessa said that I'm always the first one to fill it out. I also applied for Multiverse this year twice on accident because I applied as soon as it opened, and then I couldn't remember if I applied a couple months later, so I applied again. And Vanessa messaged me like, "You don't have to do that." I was like, "Oh, whoops."
Yeah, because it opened like right at the beginning of the year, and I remember Vanessa telling me about it ahead of time too. So I applied like literally the first week or so it was open, and then I realized, did I apply? But then there was something else that helped me do that. So you're double. we'll clone you, Toby, and we'll have two Tobys.
God, please, I will get so much more done.
You'll get to go to more stuff and do more stuff.
I could write 2 books at once.
You could leave one in Denver writing a book while you go have fun.
Yes, that would be brilliant. That would be awesome. We'd have to switch who goes though.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah. If you only knew someone who could have told you if you already applied.
I'll just do it twice. It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, one of the cool things about the panels too is they give you enough time to go from one panel to another panel, and they spread them out pretty well. So if whatever you apply for, typically it's not hard unless like 5,000 people apply for it, but it's not that difficult. I find at other cons, like the ones I'm really interested in are the ones that everybody's going to apply for, and that's going to be a little bit harder to do. But I'll usually get one of those. But here at Multiverse, you typically, if you ask for it, it's well spread out enough that people are going to get a lot of what they want. Do you find
especially
that to be
if you
true?
ask like, please?
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind indulging me to talk about that neurodivergent panel. I know this was a couple years ago, but it's very interesting hearing perspectives like that, and that's something that Multiverse I think does very well. It does it in such a respectful manner and such an educational manner. You do presentations at them on your own, hour-long presentations and things of that nature.
Yep, for neurodivergency and how it works with the creative process. Yeah, I've done it for several branches of the romance writers. I did it for a podcast in Canada. And I'm doing it at a couple of conferences this year at the end of the year. So I love that panel.
I mean, but being a guest on it is being a panelist, I should say, on it. That's an interesting aspect too, because you're going to get asked questions that maybe you didn't even think of. Has there been questions that have kind of thrown you for a loop or kind of made you think a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
I mean, at that particular panel last year, there was a lot of talk about like pushing through burning you out. Yeah, we mentioned that a couple of times where it's like forcing yourself to do it was not great. And talking about how you have to shift your perspective on that a little bit and work with it. I added that into my presentation after that panel, because I was like, that's actually really important to note. Like, you should work with the thing, which is what the whole presentation is about, but it was just laid out so beautifully that I was like, oh, that's
that's awesome. So let's talk about you a little bit, because you wrote one of my favorite things in 2023, and my favorite cover of the year as well. Look at that. That's so gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, the second cover is almost done. You're gonna die. The cover is almost finished. It's so good. City of Day is the first novel in my Nightfall series, and it is about an island full of ghosts that pop out of the ground and kill people every night. So nobody lives in town. Like, they sleep on boats and come back every morning. And it's about, of course, getting stuck there and trying to deal with the ghosts. And it's mostly a book about secrets. Like everybody has a secret in that book. So
I also find it's a very interesting book about not judging a book by its cover too. A little bit. There's a lot of irrational thinking that leads to irrational acts, and that typically never goes right or goes well for the people doing it. And it's very interesting taking that juxtaposition and kind of bringing that into the forefront of a storytelling aspect. Was that kind of something that you started with? Is that how you kind of, or did that organically evolve out of the initial idea?
A lot of that organically evolved, but it helped. It was formed a little bit by what I do is I figure out where I want the characters to end at each book, and that tells me where they need to start at each book. And so long as I get to that point, we can knock over as many pins as we need to, like, to figure it out. So I kind of have point A and point B at least before I start putting everything else in there. But a lot of it is pretty organic. I play connect the dots with my outlines, so it's all really broad strokes and all the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know you're an outliner, so it's very interesting to see an outliner kind of approach it like a pantser in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I mean, especially with my first drafts, it's partly because of the neurodivergency. Like, if I put down too much detail, my ADHD says, "We did it. We wrote the book," and I'm like, "No, that is 10 pages. That's it." But my ADHD is like, "No, we're done," and then it's really hard for me to get started again. So if I do broad strokes and do it like stream of consciousness style, so I'll be like, and then the character was like, "Yo, that's messed up. Anyway, moving on." Like, and I'll type all of that out, just so that it doesn't read like a book. That way I won't think of it that way. And then my first draft, I'm like, just get the story out. Story has to be told. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if I pay attention to any of the writing rules. That's what round 2 is for.
Are you do you go so far as to outline the characters? Because your characters are very well rounded. They're they have very good backstories. They have very good vividness to them. Do you is that something you do too? You round out the characters, or is that also part of the organic process?
It's a little bit of the organic process. I actually feel like I write characters terribly. It's like, apparently not. That's what people tell me. They're like, the characters are great. And I'm like, oh, okay. But every time I write a first draft, it feels to me like my characters are really, really flat. And like paper dolls flat. So when I go back and do that second round where I add more and put more things in, I'm like, okay, now I have to get into these characters. It has to be way better than this, like, because I think they're super flat. They're probably okay. Like, but because I push in a little bit harder and really work on perspective, even in third person, City of Day is in third person, but Thislin's chapters read different than Mila's chapters because they're the point of view that I'm writing from each time. And I do plot out my characters a little bit in the sense that, like I said, I put where they were and I put where I want them to be. And I talk about what their big issue is for that book. Like I spell that out for myself. And in book 1, Thislin's was distance. He just doesn't want to be near anything or anyone. And then Mila's was power, confidence, assertion. So I made those the things they need to learn to deal with. So
this last 2 years has been banner for you in terms of writing. You've thrown out not just City of Day. You have other books you're producing. You were just telling me off air that you have more to come, and that things like that. You went through a spell where you wrote 100,000 words in less than 30 days, something like that.
For 4 months in a row. And then I went to a conference, so my next month was a little bit lower. But like I'm still writing like a mad fiend. I'm really good at just sitting down and putting words on the paper. Yesterday I wrote 2,000 words in an hour, without over 2,000 without paying attention. It's just because I don't know, when I get writing, it goes really fast for me. Again, it doesn't have to be good the first time around. I can focus on that the next time. So when I'm writing something new, it's just going for it, top speed, get it down, get it done. I know roughly what I want out of each chapter and I go for it. And when I get to that point, I stop. And so I can do a chapter a day and write a whole book in 21 days. Because that's my average number of chapters in each book is about 21. And then I edit it the same way. I edit one chapter a day and I expand on it. And that's when I go back and work on the writing rules and all of that. So my word count almost doubles in every single one. So I do as much writing as I did the first time, again, in 21 days. So they're 100,000 word novels. That's, you know, I get a couple days wiggle room to do half a chapter and then do the other half the next day. But like, I still work on trying to get a book out every 2 months. Again, with travel and shows, it doesn't happen the way I want it to, but I'm really working on getting to that point where I can put out 3 or 4 books a year easily.
And in doing that, what is your writing environment like? Are you someone who sits in silence and just goes? Do you utilize music? Do you have to have some kind of stimulus around you? Well, what is your writing environment like in getting going?
Yeah. The first thing is location. I am currently sitting in my library. It's like a big U of bookshelves. There's a ton of books in here. This is not all of them. And looking at other people's books makes me want to write books, because that's what I want, is to be on people's shelves and be something that they value so much they keep it in their library. I will go to the Barnes and Noble, my local Barnes and Noble, and write in their cafe because I can sit and look at the books. And that's what I want. I want to be on those shelves. So I have to be around books in general. I do turn on music, but that is more because my dog gets really antsy if it's quiet. So I turn on the music for the dog, but I write to it. And most importantly is actually I have little hourglasses on my desk for different times. And I do writing sprints with an hourglass just to help me get started. And then when the sand runs out, if I'm in the zone, I don't stop writing. I don't have to interrupt the sprint. I can just keep going. But if I'm really, struggling, that timer helps me get out more words. So that's the most important thing for me, is the timer if I'm struggling.
Do you force yourself to take breaks too? Is that important to you as well? As kind of, I need to just stand up or walk away or go eat something, do something like that? Is that part of your routine as well, or do those things get lost in the shuffle sometimes?
A lot of it is regulated by my dogs. Again, they're like, "Hey, we need to go outside." And I'm like, "Oh, I should take a break and go and do that. Oh, my water bottle's empty. I might as well fill that up." So the dogs are my stop clock. Otherwise, I'll just sit there and go. Like, I won't stop. It's hyperfixation, and as soon as I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. And the next thing I know, it's 4 hours later and I don't know what's happened.
And you just write. You don't worry about editing it or anything like that, and then you take time to edit after that.
Yeah, I completely retype my second draft. And that's the only draft I show people too. I have a reputation for having very clean first drafts. That's because you don't see the first draft. But yeah, I do a complete rewrite. I put them side by side on the computer, and I will type out every single word I had and new stuff. That way it's all seamless and it flows together because I'm writing it together. Instead of trying to go back and just push stuff in there, it's just faster for me to type the whole thing again.
The other interesting thing I wanted to talk to you about in terms of your career right now and your trajectory is you've found a home on TikTok, and TikTok has been kind of an interesting playground for you. Talk a little bit about why you think you've had success there, and what it is about TikTok that intrigues you.
I have moderate success on TikTok. I haven't posted anything in a while, but I'm still getting likes and follows and stuff like that. I think part of why people like watching me in particular on TikTok is because I talk about all kinds of books, not just whatever book is on trend, but books I actually genuinely like. And you know, I talked about Diana Wynne Jones' Crestomancy series once, and people were like, I've never even heard of that. I've only heard of Howl's Moving Castle, and I'm like, it's fantastic. You should watch it. You're like, you should read it. Give it a go. But I'll do a Throwback Thursday. Every Thursday, I talk about a book that is more than 10 years old. So I'm talking about books from the 2010s and the aughts and the 90s. But they're the books that I grew up loving. And I'll pull one of them out and be like, this is my Throwback Thursday. And I talk about the publishing of the books a little bit as well. I talk about the publishing process as I'm going through it. I think I'm just like a little hub of information. Because I'm like,
you're so lively and bubbly, and it's just it's infectious. So that helps a lot too, I think, on TikTok.
Yeah, the bows help.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. You know, and you're out there selling. And is that kind of the same mindset you took with TikTok? As kind of, I'm gonna be the personality that you'll see when you meet me in person, kind of idea?
Yeah, I have real trouble not being this way.
Right.
Yeah, like the only time I'm really serious is when I'm actively writing, and that is because the rest of my brain has shut off and there's only wordsmith left, and wordsmith can be a dick. So but most of the time, yeah, no, this is just like this. This is what you get. You get it at my house, you get it out at cons, you get it when I'm, you know, doing speeches and presentations and panels and workshops throughout the year. I just finished a SIFWA mentorship, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers mentorship for the year, and I was this way with my mentee. Like, I'm like, this is just what you get. So
it's refreshing. It's really nice. I mean, and I've watched you sell. You're very good at it. You're very tentative. You listen to what the people are asking for, and you talk to them about it, and you gear it toward what you're doing, and it's very nice. And if for people who have struggled with that aspect, what would be your greatest advice?
When you're doing sales, don't push it. Like, if they walk away from your table without a sale, that's fine. I would rather they buy a book in general, any book, from one of the authors at the show, or from an indie author in particular. So if they're like, oh, you know, I like the idea of your book, but I'm more of a sci-fi person, I'm like, I actually know the book that is sci-fi me. Like, I know what you want to read. You want to read this one, and I will recommend other people's books. So even though I don't always make a sale from my table, I make a sale every time I talk to somebody. I like to think. I don't actually see them order it on spot, but a lot of it is just like you said, relaxing and talking to them and not making my sale my priority. I'll tell them about my book. Yeah, I'll tell them about all my books. And then I will sit there and talk to them about how cool their shoes are. And they'll circle back around later and be like, okay, I can't stop thinking about our conversation, half because my shoes are cool and half because your book sounds cool. And so, you know, that's the genuine connection is actually one of my best sales techniques.
Yeah. It's awesome. You're an amazing person to talk to. It's very cool to Vanessa says that's the best way to sell. Prioritize what the reader wants rather than pushing my book onto them. Absolutely. Yeah, 1000%. Yeah, and then but people get nervous. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I said, and then they respect you, and then they want to come back, and they want to talk to you again, and maybe the next book you write will be what they want.
I find though, if you're not adept at sales or keen at sales, that's the mechanism or the self-defense mechanism that you go to is kind of like, okay, let me talk about my books because that's where I'm comfortable and that's what I practice and what I do, right? But I think if you just settle in and be natural, it's a lot more effective.
And compliments. Like I find something about everybody who stops at my table to compliment, just because at conferences everybody goes all out. So there's always something nice to compliment.
What do you what's 2024 holding for you for the rest of the year? What are you looking forward to? What do you got going on?
My next show is Dragon Con, also in Atlanta. That one's going to be huge, and I'm so excited. I'm going to be in the Vendors Hall for the first time. And then I am doing Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, the Colorado Gold Conference, which is a writing conference out here in Colorado. And I'm going to be talking about all kinds of writing stuff and doing a couple mentorship sessions. I will be at Multiverse, and then in November, I will be at Author Nation. So I'm all over the place this year.
How about books? Do we have anything planned to come out this year?
Book 2 in the series, City of Night, is due to come out before the end of this year. We're working on the cover right now. It is fantastic. It is so good. We're almost done with that. And then as soon as that's done, I think we have 1 or 2 more rounds of edits, and it's going to be out. So that one's coming soon.
Awesome.
And I will also have announcements about other books that are coming out in 2025. So
yay, we're looking forward to that. Toby, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. You're one of my favorite people on this planet, and I just love hearing you wax poetic about your process and everything you're doing. And so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you in a few weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a break, and here's a little something from Ink Publishing, and then we'll be back right after that.
If you've ever had a child or been a child, you'll understand just how far a parent will go to fight a ghost who's haunting your kid. I'm Beverly Graves Myers, and I'm going to read a bit of my story, Tomorrow's Ghost. Mom, don't forget the cupcakes for the Halloween party tomorrow. I told Miss Halloran you'd make the ones with the marshmallow jack-o'-lanterns on top. Jordan slung her backpack on the counter and danced across the kitchen to grab a piece of toast. Kathleen groaned as she simultaneously poured orange juice, reached for the peanut butter, and closed the refrigerator door with her foot. Each one of those fancy cupcakes took 10 minutes to decorate. She'd be up half the night. I don't know, honey. Things have been really crazy at work, and I may have to stay late. Couldn't I just send some of those slice and bake cookies that have the pumpkin faces already in them? They'd be a lot easier. Her daughter unleashed the guilt-producing whine that had taken 10 years to perfect. No! I already told everybody how cool your cupcakes are. All the kids will think I'm really lame if I bring grocery store cookies. All right, Kathleen muttered. Staying up past midnight would be worth it if a few Halloween goodies could replace Jordan's recently acquired preteen pout with some old-fashioned, childish excitement.
All right, everybody. Well, our next guest was here and not here anymore. Live feeds, you know how that goes. But I and if I know how it go with Toby a little longer, but that's okay. It all works out. We're very happy to be here at the Spotlight of the Multiverse and doing what we do each and every week. I'm so just happy that you all are getting to meet all these wonderful, beautiful people that I know and have had the opportunity to be around at the Multiverse Convention and beyond that. And so they're just it's really cool to be able to spotlight those every week. And we do so every Monday here at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern, sans the first Friday of the month when we do late night news. Myself and Vanessa do that show, and we've got lots of great shows coming up on Going In now as well, so check those out. We have This Week in Indies, which happens every Sunday at noon Eastern, and tomorrow we have our next Words That Kill episode, which is in its final season. It's the third and final season of Words That Kill. And it's with Angela Yuriko Smith, horror writer, Bram Stoker winner and nominee. And A.F. Stewart and Angela Yuriko Smith talk about how not to fridge characters. And it's a very fascinating conversation, very interesting, and doesn't go the way you think it does. So a little teaser for you to check it out. And that'll happen tomorrow night. We'll have that out, I'm hoping around 8 p.m. Eastern. That's my plan. After this, I have something else to do, but then after that, I'm putting the finishing touches on it. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for Kris, Ink Publishing also has opportunities for you out there. And so in a little pivot, here is a bit about what they're doing that you might be interested in. I believe one of them has actually expired, but this is a impromptu, little, whatever you want to call it, interlude. But check it out, and maybe it might be something you're interested in. Are you looking for inspiration to grab a hold, to jump on an opportunity, or maybe bite down on a few thousand words and feel your way around a submission? Ink Publishing just might have what you're looking for if you're looking to be a little impulsive with your writing. Yes, their next anthology, Open Call, is Impulse, an explicit romance anthology. They're searching for spicy romance. This will be a diverse and inclusive anthology with high heat levels accepted throughout. There'll be no restrictions on gender or sexuality, and you can feel free to get warm in a snowed-in lodge in Colorado. Let your shifters and cryptics frolic. Break out that Victorian lace. Or set your story in deep space with alien first contact. The submission price is free, and you can submit up until May 31st, although the deadline might be extended. There are no AI allowed, and one per author story, with no reprints or simultaneous submissions. The word count can be between 2,000 and 8,000 words, but please go to the submission page and read the rules carefully before submitting. But wait, there's more opportunities. Yay All Queer is an LGBTQ plus anthology from Ink Publishing that has opened its submission period right now and will be open till July 31st. They're searching for LGBTQ plus characters who have a central position within the story. It'll be a diverse and inclusive anthology. Once again, there will be no restrictions on gender or sexuality, and feel free to create an engaging story with your favorite genre or setting. It can be mystery, romance, fantasy, or sci-fi. They're all welcome if the stories and characters grab the reader's interest. Once again, there is no cost to submit, but there will be no AI and one per author allowance with no reprints or simultaneous submissions. The word count here is 2,000 to 6,000 words. And once again, we urge you to please, once you go to the submission page, read the rules and restrictions. But those are opportunities from the Multiverse sponsor, Ink Publishing, that you can take advantage of right now if you've got a story that you need to tell. All right. Just a little awkwardness here. I'm trying to connect with Kris right now and figure this out. But it just happens sometimes. This is just the way it works, you know. It seems like every year on this show, not just this show, but all these shows, we have something like this. It happens. It just does. And that being said, Multiverse is a great event. I think you all should check it out and want to be a part of it. And I hope that we see you there in October. The new hotel is awesome. The panels that I've seen that have been proposed are awesome, and everything about it. Author's Alley, you're meeting all these great authors who are going to be a part of it, and there's a lot going on. We'll do our little end segment right now for the meat track, and then hopefully Kris will be here and we'll move forward. But it's one of the great things about Multiverse. One of the awesome aspects that is unique to Multiverse that I think is just one of those wonderful things, and I've been a part of, is the meat track, and it's an awesome experience. So here's a little bit about that. Even within a smaller con like the Multiverse, there's still so much to do, and it's so hard to find your troop within that. Well, that's where Gigi and her team at the meat track come into it. Another unique aspect of the Multiverse Convention is how it breaks off into smaller groups, designated for you to find those like-minded folks you seek to get the most out of your con experience. So here's yet another reason why the Multiverse is the place to be this October. You can find out more about the meat track and all the tracks that are involved with this year's Multiverse by going to the website at multiversecon.org. See you there. Well, I don't know that Kris is going to be able to join us here. I don't know what happened, but it looks like we're just going to move forward a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll double back with Kris later on, and we'll get her on and talk a little bit down the road. But that being said, thank you for joining us here, and really appreciate the opportunity at each and every week to do this and put you on the spotlight. And the Multiverse Convention, yeah, it appears to be so. Yeah, tech is hard. It happens. But that being said, hey everybody, thank you so much for being here and joining us. And remember that it's always time to go any now, and we'll be back very soon for another spotlight on the Multiverse.